All right, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Norbert calling you from the Artist's Residence in Norfolk. Hope everybody's having a great day and enjoy the Season 9 finals that we streamed earlier this week. We are here today to talk about the survey results from the community to help us understand how we should proceed for 2023 with the league. And with me are a number of people who are my fellow tournament organizers for the league. We have some of the current members with us, and we also have the two new members who have decided to join us. So I'm going to now start sharing a bit of a slide presentation to help us discuss this, and I'll at the same time then be able to show everybody what the team is going to look like, and the new people can introduce themselves. So just give me a moment. Oop. There we go. And hopefully people can see this. I'll make it just a bit bigger if I can. There we go. Okay, cool. Great. And that means I need to go look at the slides. All right. So first of all, big thank you to everybody in the community for supporting us. Oop. Why did this thing freeze? Oh, no. Okay. I don't know what happened there. One of the big thank you to the community for supporting us with this. We had 126 respondents to the survey, which is a really nice sample size. And we're going to go do a little bit of a preamble, then go through the data, and then have a discussion around our conclusions and what we're going to do in 23 as a result. So let me get started. Right, so here is the 2023 MCP TO team. I'm going to be taking officially the role of the head TO next year. And then we have each of the TOs responsible for each of the different brackets that we have in the league. So for the West bracket is one of our new members, Carl, also known as Venport. Carl, why don't you say hello now and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Carl Boffman. I live out in Sacramento, California, and been playing MCP for about a year. So it's exciting to be able to help you guys out.
Cool. And then in the central bracket, we also have a new member, and that is Shadow Marvel. Say hello.
Hello, Shadow Marvel. You can also call me Matthew if you so please. I'm taking over, and you can register all your complaints and praises to me.
How long? I should have asked this, Carl. Let's start with you. How long have you been playing MCP?
So just over a year. So September of 21 is when I started. Yep.
Nice. And you were playing what before this?
I gave up wargaming for about 10 years. This is my first dive back into tabletop gamings for about 10 years.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So clearly it's hit the right spot because you decided to donate some of your time for this.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a blast. Been a lot of fun. Good community, and a lot of fun, both online and in person.
Fantastic. Good. And you, Shadow Marvel, how long have you been playing?
I've been playing, I think, about 2 years. I started when the X-Men came out. I didn't come in because of the X-Men, but I started when they came out.
Yeah, likely story.
I don't own a single X-Men box. Not a single X-Men box.
All right. On the east, that fellow who's jumping in there is Finger Guns, who used to be in the west bracket, but now has moved over to the east side of the United States, and so he is remaining on as the East Coast bracket leader. Say hello, Sam.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I don't have any video. If I have video, it breaks everybody else's experience.
Cool.
So, yeah, I'm finally making the move back east, like I physically did a couple years back. I've been playing Crisis Protocol since July-ish of 2020. Few weeks before that, I had my first demo, and then I just kind of hit the ground running, and I've been just about running ever since. So I'm having a blast doing this, and happy to move back east, get my my actual bracket in alignment with my time zone. So it'll be fun.
Okay. It is really handy that way, and we're really grateful to people like Carl and Shadow Marvel for jumping in to help us when they are in those relative time zones, because it does make a big difference. In Europe, we'll be continuing on Jonah and the Wargaming Dad. Wargaming Dad has always been a big helper to us as an accuser, and he's also being a TO, and he jointly shares that responsibility with Jonah. Say hello, Jonah.
Hello, folks. Yeah, well, coming back, actually, I took a break for season 9. I TO'd 6, 7, and 8, and then Norbert stepped in for me because I started a new job and was selling my house, or trying to sell my house, as I still am, and buy a new house and all that jazz. I've been playing, well, say I've been playing. I picked up MCP as a painting project in the first lockdown here in the UK, which was like March of 2020. As you can probably guess, things have somewhat escalated.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. And then lastly, not with us today, but holding down the Oceania brackets, which of course includes Australia and New Zealand primarily, is AJP2, who's been a great supporter of the league for many seasons now. All right, as you saw, a number of these folks are also, in fact, everybody except for me and Carl are accusers as well as being TOs. I feel, Carl, that we ought to do something about that.
Yeah, maybe get better at the game for me.
Yeah. Okay. Next slide. Really quickly, just wanted to mention to you that there's a number of people who don't get seen as often, but are very important to the mod and making sure that the leagues are running well. That includes the developer team. Carefree Llama is the lead developer. Zayton has been really active recently. We're grateful to have him coming back and helping us on the development role. And Versen also helps developing some of the graphics for the models that we use there. Two founders that used to be helping us quite regularly are both going to be on break. That's Dizzard and Gronko. They're taking a step back to handle other kinds of responsibilities in their lives. And we have a bunch of accusers still. We have XP Jacob, Utility Cookie, and Pat Dunford in Europe, Jacob Deacon in the West bracket, and Matt Alex in the East bracket. A number of other ones have had to step down. And so we will be putting out a call for new accusers, especially for the Central and other, I guess, the other types of brackets in the United States in particular, since we have many for Europe, to make, and maybe also Oceania, if we can add another one there too. So anyhow, we'll be putting out that application probably in the new year. Okay, at this point, I'm going to stop talking to give myself a break and turn it over to Jonah, who is a university lecturer and so knows his way around PowerPoint slides and data, and he's going to lead us through the highlights of the survey results. We will be posting a link to the results in the show notes and also in various Discords and what have you, so you can look at these slides and study the data at length yourself later. Okay, Jonah, go ahead.
Hi, folks. Yeah, so as Norbert said already, 126 responses, which is really, really good for a survey. If you get anywhere near 50% of a survey response rate, that is an excellent return. Most surveys get about 10 to 15% return rate. So again, thank you for taking your time to fill in. Obviously, this first slide is just asking which brackets people play in. And I think, if I'm right, these broadly are reflective of the actual players in each of those regions as well, in terms of the breakdown of what we have in total. I won't dwell on them too much. I think we'll move on.
Well, hang on.
Yeah, I was saying just before we started, for those in the UK who will understand this reference, I'm channeling my inner Chris Whitty. If you remember those lockdown COVID briefings and getting Norbert to do the next slide for me. So here is breakdown of how people consider themselves, basically, whether they consider themselves casual, competitive, or a bit of both. As you can see, I think a fairly even split. The smallest one is obviously the casual players, then the competitive players, and then those who I think are probably a bit like myself. I think a bit like most of the TOs consider themselves kind of a bit competitive and a bit casual as well. And just to reiterate the point that Norbert has made there, that we've got all kinds of players playing in the TTS leagues, and I think this survey certainly supports that. And this very much feeds into some of the decisions that we've made in line with some of the other data that we're going to go on to, which is that we want to continue to cater for all types of players, and we think that we can cater to all types of players. Okay, if we could have the next slide, please.
Keep going, or you want this one?
No, this one, yeah. So this is the main one I'm going to focus on. The next four slides are basically, or maybe the next slide, next 5 slides, sorry, are all kind of different iterations of the same question, asking the players what type of format they wanted for the league. So as you can see on this slide, this is our current format where we have 6 weeks and all X and 1 players, so typically 5 and 1, based on the sizes of the brackets that we've had the last few seasons, go into the cups where it becomes a knockout. And I should say thanks to Norbert for putting the survey together this season. But there were various questions asked on different formats on how to run the league. So, for example, 6 weeks of leagues, but only the undefeated players make it, not having a cuts at all, reducing the league play to 4 weeks, and then having all X and 1s and a bigger elimination bracket, and also just having 4 weeks of league play and no elimination bracket. So I don't want to go through every single one of those slides, but the main one to highlight is this one, which is had the biggest response. As you can see, the scale is 1 is no, I don't really like that at all, to 5, I really, really like that. And this is the one that won out quite comfortably, I think, and is going to inform the main decision, which is that people enjoy the 6 weeks of league play, and they don't want to move to a system where only undefeated players make it. I guess a lot of the reasoning for that was in some of the free text comments was that it might get people to just kind of lose interest, particularly the more competitive ones, as soon as they've lost a game. Mm-hmm. So this was we were taking 4 and 5 here as being our main metric, as being in kind of favor for it, with 3 kind of on the fence, neither agree or disagree. So this was the most popular option. Perhaps Norbert can quickly show the other ones, just to show I'm not making that up, but I won't talk through them.
Yeah. So this is 6 weeks of play, followed by 3 weeks of elimination rounds for only undefeated players. So as you can see, quite loaded on the low side. This is 6 weeks of play with no eliminations whatsoever, just league play, essentially. This is 4 weeks of league play, but then as many weeks as we need to have X and 1 elimination rounds, which could be more than 5. That garnered some support, but still quite in the middle. And the one that nobody liked, really, was 4 weeks of league play with no elimination rounds.
Okay, so this one was, as you can see, about how many leagues we should run next year. And fairly overwhelming favourite is to follow what we've been doing at the moment, which is to run 3 leagues. I'm sure those of you who played this season, particularly those who made cuts, will appreciate that we started quite late. We kind of bumped into Christmas. It did make some of the scheduling a little bit awkward. And as you'll see towards the end, I think we've resolved that for 2023. But clearly, the vast majority of the community wanted to keep with the 3 leagues, with a few so small that it won't even show the percentage in Google Slides. Madheads that wanted 5 leagues next year.
Yeah.
I presume they wanted the smaller ones rather than the 6-week ones.
Okay.
So not quite as clear a winner, but thinking about the break in between. So this is the downtime between the end of cuts and when the next league starts. If you were watching, was it yesterday or the day before? It was the day before the final of TTS Season 9. Pat won. Congratulations, Pat, becoming a 3-time winner in a fantastic game. If anyone hasn't watched it, I really would watch it. It was an absolute masterclass from Pat and Suzume in kind of control and staying in the game. It was brilliant. And you've never seen so many frog emojis in one place. But yeah, this is, as you can see, about the gap in between. A fairly sizable minority for 1 to 2 weeks, but the big winner, if you like, here was to have 3 or 4 weeks between when the cuts end, so when we crown our season 10, as it'll be, finalist in 2023, and go on to season 11. Okay, I can't remember what we've got next. Rosters, yes. Okay. So a bit like the format of the weeks, I'm just kind of going to give a quick overview of these, and we'll kind of focus on the most favored one. And then we'll come back to this when we talked about the decision that we've made. But essentially, there were four options: a kind of locked roster with an opportunity to change, and then new rosters for the cuts, completely open, as we had this season for the league and the cuts, and different iterations of those. If perhaps Norbert can just whiz through this one and the next one,
Yep.
and then stop on the third one, which is the one that got the most favor, which was slide 15.
Okay. I feel like I'm your graduate student to your lecturership at wherever, Cambridge, Oxford, I forget which of the universities you're at. Maybe both.
No, they're quite as prestigious. Nottingham Trent University.
This
Okay,
is this is locked rosters with no opportunity to change them until the elimination rounds start. Fairly undesired. This is locked roster with an opportunity to change it halfway through the leagues and then at the start of the elimination round, which is essentially the old way that we used to do this, and that's kind of weighted middling towards high. This is open rosters in the league rounds, but locked rosters in elimination rounds. Massive support there, as you can tell. And let me just do the last one. I'll come back to this, Jonah. The last one was open rosters that can change from week to week in both the league and the elimination rounds. Surprisingly, not favored whatsoever by the community. So going backwards now, this is the one that we felt was the winner. Do you want to comment?
Yeah, I was surprised by this, actually. I think this was the most surprising finding from the survey, because open rosters seem to be pretty popular. But as you can see, there is a support for opening the league and then locking it in the elimination rounds. And I think that feeds into this casual competitive format that we're going for. I think I speak for all the TOs that we view the league as like your regular game night that you go to down at the local shop, where you just take whatever you want, and that might be something really competitive because you're practicing for a tournament, or it might be a new affiliation that's just dropped, or some new models, or whatever. And then the elimination round is the much more kind of competitive environment. It's the kind of, you turn up for a day or for a weekend and you play the same roster and duke it out to try and get crowned the winner of that event. So that is the most popular one. But we have some further comments to make on that, which we'll make in the summary.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we just got a few more, haven't we?
Yes.
Yes. I'm not a content creator, so can I leave you to do this one, Norbert?
Yeah, sure. So this is kind of asking the same question, but a different way to help people understand why locked rosters might be useful or not. Basically, this is asking, we want to have the game growing. We want to have the leagues have an important part of that role. Do content creators help it grow and for people to get understand that it exists, or and hence having locked rosters helps those content creators because they can then take that database and talk about it? Or is having locked rosters actually more of an impediment because more people would rather have open rosters so that they could play wherever they want, just like they would at their local game shop and what have you? And so we asked the question, do you think having locked rosters which allows content creators to have stats to discuss the game helps grow it? Or do open rosters actually make it grow because people are more easily able to join? And the results were almost identical, half and half. 51 or almost 52%, so slightly more than half, said it's better to have open rosters, whereas the other one was having locked rosters for content creators' purposes.
In the UK, we call 52% a clear majority.
Yes, I know, with serious ramifications, as it turns out.
Okay, so This again is about the elimination round and how we go about pairing players. We've used a couple of different systems across the different seasons, and this is relatively evenly split between seeded and random. Although, oh, sorry, not just normal random, a random with avoiding same bracket pairings, because there's a fairly high chance that people who've made cuts will have played at least one other person that has made cuts as well. So I won't dwell on this one because again, this is one we are going to come back to. But I'll just make the point that when we talk about seeded here, because of the software we use, we can't seed it all into one big bracket. So it would be seeded randomly afterwards. So everyone, once we've got our perfect 32 or 16, it would be everyone would be randomly allocated to one of those, and then it would be then seeded through from 1 to 16 or 1 to 32. But it wouldn't be based on league performance. It would be random in the seeding, but it would allow people to see the path through the knockout rounds. And I know lots of people have had fun using challenge to predict who's going to be the winner in a given season. And it also makes scheduling a little bit easier as well if you know who two possible opponents are if you win in one of the knockout games. But we will come back to that again.
Okay, 1 second.
No problem.
Okay.
So
There we are.
we're going on to everybody's two favorite discussions now. And then we're going to talk about Longshanks. So we introduced chess clocks, I think, a couple of seasons ago,
Yeah.
maybe two.
Yes.
Just for the elimination rounds. And I think the data speaks for itself quite clearly here. Again, along with the next couple of questions we're going to look at, emphasizing that the league is really the much more casual, kind of laid back, don't want to put pressure on players compared to the elimination rounds or the cuts, which are a lot more competitive. So people just want to use chess clocks in the elimination round. That was the clear favorite, with using them throughout the whole or not using them at all, each getting, the 25% of the votes. So we will be continuing with chess clocks, I think.
Yep.
Okay, Longshanks. Again, the second favorite debate when it comes to MCP, I think. PTO closing down has kind of forced our hand a little bit because I do think Longshanks is the best software out there in the absence of PTO. But this is two questions. So this one and the next one, whether we use Longshanks for the league and whether we use it for the knockout rounds for the cuts. As you can see here, the preference with, a draw actually with 36.5% was either don't care or have it as unranked. So it doesn't count towards your player rating if you care or don't care about that in the league. And if we flip the next one quickly, please, Norbert. As you can see, again, there's a clear preference here that for the elimination rounds, it should be a ranked event.
Again, the elimination player is getting no leeway from the community.
No, although we do have some comments about that. Which we'll come to. I don't want to dominate the conversation.
It's the last slide.
Last slide. Okay. So what do we do in between? We've had over 300 people play in some of our leagues, regularly over 200 now, and obviously only a fairly small number of those go on to make the cuts. So this is about what we do for those people. And you can see there's kind of various options here of the possibilities, but the two that have led, they're more or less equal, are just doing a regular league, 4 weeks, open rosters, that's it, or doing what happened in between seasons 8 and 9, which is the second chance format, which is, again, 4 weeks, open rosters, but the winners of each of those get the opportunity to go into the cuts automatically in the following season, although there are some kind of rules and caveats around that I won't get into now.
Okay.
That's me with the data. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jonah. So I'm going to go show now a summary slide. Sorry, just really quickly that you can also see people's open responses. We had 2 questions that had open response possibilities, which were about collecting league stats and also other ways to improve the league. If you click that link there, it'll go to a Word document that'll allow you to read those. But they more or less reinforced what we learned from the quantitative data. So no changes based on what we learned there, although it was helpful. Right. So let me do a summary, and then we'll open it up for a group discussion. So the decisions that we've kind of made based on the way this league, the way the data was presented to us was as follows. We will continue using the 6 league weeks, followed by the X and 1 elimination rounds, as we've been doing almost since the inception of the leagues. We'll be doing 3 leagues a year with about 4 weeks between them. And we will do open roster for the league weeks. And then a bit of a hedge on our parts. We will then, once we have all the qualified players known, we will do a quick vote with them, anonymous vote, where they can answer whether they want to do open or locked rosters. And secondly, whether they want seeded pairings or just random pairings. Okay, and we'll discuss this. We will not rank the league weeks on Longshanks, but we will rank the elimination rounds. We won't enforce putting in full Longshanks information input after games, just at the score or the winner. Although we encourage people to put that data in, but it won't be mandatory. And lastly, for Beta Splendens, we will run 1 open roster 4-week league for casual play, alongside 1 of a second chance league, as Jonah talked about. And we'll see how signups go for both of those, and then we'll consider whether we want to do alternative rules leagues later in other seasons in the year, dictated basically on popularity of the ones that we're running here. So we're starting off basically with pretty normal stuff, and depending on how popular those are, we may or may not continue doing them for seasons 11 and 12. All right, I'm going to then minimize this and make us bigger instead. If I could remember how to do that. Nope, don't want that. There we go. And yeah, cool. All right, so that's us now. So who would like to start? Anybody have any particular points that they wanted to make? It sounds like Shadow Marvel. You look like you're eager.
I'm always eager.
All right, tell
always
me.
Eager. I would say just the one thing I would say is I think this is to the content creators out there. I think that content creators can be very vital and important to the community and in getting people to join the league. And I don't think the stats are necessarily what would draw people to the league, because most of those stats come in after the league has already started. So anyone who comes in because of that conversation is probably coming in the halfway mark or a little bit into it, which is also important as well. But I think it's also important for all content creators to just hype up the league, talk about it, many of them have been a part of many seasons. They can talk about it, talk about what they're going to do. You don't have to give away all your secret tech. It's cool. But, just talk about what you're excited about and get people hyped about the league so they come and join, and do it in a few weeks in advance. And so people are just aware that the league is happening. And I think that would be the best case for recruitment to people joining the community.
Totally great.
Well, I think adding in the idea that that it's kind of that casual-ish element where you can flex your roster, I think will really help a lot of newer players coming in and not feeling that anxiety of it being a hardcore tournament, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seemed to work really well for us this season. And as a side note, although it might sound self-serving, it makes our jobs as TOs way easier when it comes to new releases, and errata, and new crises, things like that, because basically we can flex those in at the end of a given week instead of having the hard decision of whether to change the entire season or keep the season under old rules.
Though it does seem like AMG likes to make us play old rules right before the finals happen.
Yeah, we had this problem with War Machine all the time too. They would try to make huge game changes just before the World Team Championship would take place and stuff. So it was a little bit awkward. But we became more harmonious towards the end, so that's fine. Yes, and Wargaming Dad, another TO, as I mentioned, is saying also not having us check all the different rosters before we get the league started is a huge bit of work. That was a massive amount of work. But more importantly, I think for the players is that if we had to resolve some issues, we couldn't start the league until we got a hold of those people and fixed them somehow, because we didn't want to just boot them out, so to speak. So that goes away with open rosters. There was one. So the other thing that people want to know is us trying to get people to put in a lot of the data from their games into Longshanks. Like, Longshanks makes it very easy to do. And it is easy to do, and I hope people do it. But what it came down to is, again, chasing people. If even one person doesn't put complete data in, that's us chasing that person down. Hopefully they can do it ahead of the time when we have to draw a new round. But a lot of games take place on Sunday, which is when we typically do it. And if we don't get that information in, then theoretically we shouldn't be really pulling the round until we get that information in. And so it just leads to more delays. And so that's why we're not electing to enforce it this year or this coming season.
Longshanks has a list function now, which works really well for locked rosters. If you're going to the event at your local game store, or if it's the cuts and we proceed with locked rosters in the cuts, that works very well. But it's tied to you as a player, and you can't change that every round. So if you're having an open roster, it actually becomes superfluous. The only info that's kind of useful, if you like, to Longshanks is your kind of threat and what affiliation and leader you use. But as Norbert has already said, we won't be enforcing people having to put that in. The only thing they need to report is their score.
Having said that, though, Jonah, now that you mention it, I didn't realize that about Longshanks having a roster or listing capability. I feel like that's probably something we could use in the elimination rounds.
Yeah, if we go with locked rosters, and we'll have some discussion on that in a sec, I'm sure. As you said, we've hedged our bets a bit for a particular reason. But there is a list function. So when you register on Longshanks, you can fill in your affiliations if you've running multiple affiliation, and there is a place to just copy and paste your roster. Although in the last tournament I went to, my roster was the chorus to Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Especially if you load it from Cerebro, it'll actually do some other analysis because there's an export function from there and some of those other tools. So that could actually help if we go to locked rosters and finals.
It's beautifully formatted too. I think the last point that I'd have to share with everybody on this particular aspect of how we're running the leagues is just like everything else we do in miniatures gaming, it's easy to lose track of over TTS, but this is a combined effort between at least two people when you're playing these games. And so if it's important to you that your data is getting tracked and that you want to see people tracking that data, just like we decide whether or not something is a size 3 piece of terrain when we're looking at a board in real life, we can talk to, and we often talk to each other after our matches for, 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes. We can just as easily do our reporting in that window, talk to each other about it, and basically make sure that we get as much data as Longshanks will accept in there. The point that I think Norbert's made is that we're not chasing anybody to get that data. That's why we're not enforcing it. But we can push each other to be good players. There's nothing wrong with that.
I'll be highly encouraging the West Coast to have the data correct. So we'll see how far I go with that.
That's great. So let's start with you, Carl. You're being one of the, newer to the community and also new to the team. What struck you the most when you saw this data?
I was really excited that people liked the open format and changing rosters and kind of keeping that flow and being able to add things in and change. I think that's much more interesting to me as a player. I kind of will get bored in the couple seasons where I had locked rosters. I want to change up my roster a lot. So I think that allows that flexibility, and I'm excited that the community thinks that as well.
Yeah. How about you, Shadow Marvel? You've been around the block a few times, though not as a TO. What struck you the most?
I was struck that everyone thought so similarly as me. So that makes me happy as someone who will be playing in the league that people think similarly. I mean, I also just felt the differences between what is in the league rounds and then the elimination rounds is a sticky wicket, and I think that the data kind of plays that out because it's very clear what we want to do when we're playing our six, rounds of fun. And then when we get to the nerve-wracking elimination rounds, do we want that ranked? Do we want that locked? Are we sure we want that locked? Are we, it's very like, when I did the survey, I wasn't even sure what I
Right,
wanted.
right. And that's the point. I think the reason that we hedged and said we're going to ask the people who actually are involved in the elimination round is because the data was inconclusive when it came to whether we should do it one way or the other. It was almost equally one way or the other, and so that's why we thought let's leave it to the people who actually have to endure this rather than the general population if there's no clear consensus.
There's also, 126 people did the survey. A significant majority of those people won't make cuts because, only so many people go X and 1. So actually, if we enforced it just based on these survey results, we could be enforcing it on a bunch of people who actually voted in a different way on the survey or perhaps didn't complete the survey, which is why we've sat on the fence, hedged our bets, and are going to actually ask of the people who qualify for the cuts in TTS season 10. It'll be an anonymous survey, so you don't have to put your name to it if you don't want. And we might do that after every season, but we'll see if there's a kind of overwhelming majority one way or the other. I think we may not need to do it every season.
All right, why don't you carry on then, Jonah? You're a veteran of the leagues now, and as a TO, as a matter of fact, as well. How have you think? How does this data reflect on the way you think that the leagues have been evolving, and in particular, our concern that we were getting stale?
Yeah, we'd had quite a lot of conversations in private, and we about how we could go about changing the leagues, including kind of going to smaller leagues with a kind of invite at the end of the year for people who did particularly well, having a kind of promotion and relegation system between smaller leagues, and it was actually quite nice actually to read that people are broadly happy with the way things are. They like it. I think one of the things they don't like, we're going to address, which we'll do on the last slide, so I won't spoil that now.
Right.
But I think one of the main, I feel, criticisms that we probably get, fairly as well, we're big boys and girls, we're not afraid of some constructive criticism, is, I think, addressed for next year. But yeah, I was happy with the survey results. I was quite surprised, as I already indicated, about the favoured locked rosters for the favoured locked rosters for the elimination rounds, particularly after having viewed your Future of TTS discussion that you had on your channel, Norbert, just before Christmas, where Mike and Suna and some of the others sort of professed to not wanting locked rosters because that almost puts pressure on the people who make cuts to kind of grind practice games in advance. Because the one big difference that we have is that we have up to a week to play our games, whereas on a one-day event, you see your opponent's roster and you've got a few minutes to kind of make some things in your head. So I was a bit surprised by that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what our qualifiers next season vote for and what those who actually make it through are in favour of. I think that'll be very interesting if you're a bit of a data nerd like I am.
Mm-hmm. All right, and you, Sam, also been with us for many seasons now. What was your first season?
I got echo. This is my first season?
Yeah, what do you remember? What number was it?
Fourth?
4?
Fourth or fifth.
Oh, okay.
I think my first season that I played in was the third season, and then I think it was 5 that I started getting involved. I think that was Dizzard's deployment season.
Oh,
that was
yeah.
One that
Yeah.
Wherever that lines up.
Who here has been either in season 1 or 2 then? I played in season 2. I caught the tail end of season 1. That's how we found out about it. And that was at the start of the pandemic, which was a godsend for us to, not the pandemic, but the mod. Sam, go ahead then. Tell us your thoughts, being a veteran.
I love that. I feel like over the time that I've been involved with this, more than once it's been stated that there was some overreach by the TO team, and I feel that what we've done over the past few seasons has been trying to refine the product again and again and again, and it's really nice to just echo pretty much what everybody else has said. It's really nice to see that we're on the right track with a lot of this. I also found the do as I say, not as I do rosters for the league rounds and then closed rosters for the cuts seemed kind of hilarious. But I'm glad that we're leaving that up to the finalists to decide.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was the concern that we're not doing what the community wants. We're not evolving with the community, and so just hearing from you all gave us a lot of reassurance and also a couple of minor tweaks to help make things better. And that was my biggest concern is that we're doing something that's not going to be popular because we're just out of tune with the community. That turned out to be not the case, and it's really gratifying to see that people are like what we were doing.
Or we brainwashed them all.
Yeah, or they can't imagine it. Now, I just was going to point out that we had the open answer section where people could put down other things, and a few people did. Oh, very few actually had a couple of alternative format ideas, but no real large group of comments came through saying how we should do things differently or it could be better, this and that. That we could feel concerned that we're not doing the right thing. And then the other point I wanted to make was how important it is for us to juggle the needs and desires of the casual community versus the competitive community. We've been criticized in the past by a number of podcasters, criticizing not in a negative way, just discussing us, that they'd be doing something differently. And I think the one thing that I keep trying to say at my phone, which doesn't help very much, but it's because we're trying to balance these two factors. It's not just a competitive event at all. It is meant to grow the community globally, give people experiences with one another, and hopefully spur the growth of new communities in real life, and even possibly help people want to get together at conventions more often, and especially here in Europe where we have to cross the different nations to have some more international events as well. So I think the data showed us that as well, which makes me feel good that people want to have kind of both halves of the community accommodated by this really unique thing that we're doing, which is a global electronic league. I mean, it's just crazy, which is also leading us to some of the troubles we've had about when to do release models, right, guys? The senior people will know how much debate goes on when we're trying to figure out whether to add in a model into the league, because it's not a matter of whether you can pick it up in your store. We have to concern ourselves with every country across the globe who could be playing this game, and the release dates have not been synchronized. Sam, you want to comment on that?
I mean, it was particularly bad during the supply chain malfunctioning that we saw in 2021, where we would literally have models released for months in one area that were unavailable in another. And I'm glad that most of that's been cleaned up, and I think that largely we're in a good spot for it. Like now it feels like if there's any sort of a bottleneck on it, it's just getting the actual assets into the TTS mod more so than it is anything else. So it's great.
Yeah. And that makes another good point that you're making about how we update the mod. Zaytan and Versens have been able to step up a bit to help Llama, who's had to tone back his commitment a little bit. So between the three of them, we've been seeing a lot more updates to the mod, so getting ready for the league. And as a matter of fact, they were holding off on implementing all the new crises as the default option until the season 9 was over, which it is now. So we should hope to have all those little niggling bugs cleared out in the new year, early new year, when they switch everything over to the new maps. And then it's a matter of also getting the new models into the thing, because there's quite a bit that has to go on to make it all work. Some of it is just getting the capture of the image, right? But sometimes because of the rules that come with these models, they want to add stuff into those little character trays to kind of make sure the tokens are correct and stuff like that. And so that all takes a bit of programming. And so that's why it doesn't instantly happen, unfortunately. So cool. any final thoughts before we get to the schedule of events? No? Okay, we're good. All right, let me endeavor to make this big again. Oh, I managed it. Fantastic. All right, everybody, here's what maybe everybody's been waiting for. Our decisions on the scheduling for next year, taking the feedback into account. Happily, we were able to accommodate it all. So Season X will be starting on the 23rd of January and going for 6 weeks is the 5th of March. We'll take a 1-week break. That's to help us to get Beta Splendens set up for everybody who's not in the eliminations and also to conduct that vote that we talked about for the elimination qualifiers. And then eliminations will be from the 13th of March to the 16th of April. And so that's basically a 12 weeks. That's 3 months. 3 months. That's how long it takes to run these things. So then we'll take a month break, as people have indicated they would like. Season 11 then will start 15th of May to the 25th of June. A week break. Eliminations will be the 3rd of July through the 6th of August. And then we'll have basically August off. Season 12 starts 4th of September to the 15th of October. 1 week break takes us from the 23rd of October to the 26th of November, which is Thanksgiving week, giving us December then off. And so consequently, you can expect to see Season X rules out by the 8th of January. They'll be largely the same. We'll just add in some of the details that were changed from the survey into those rules. And registration then opens up the very next day on the 9th. So you basically have 2 weeks of registration that you can sign in. And in fact, I think we're going to continue allowing people to actually join the league 1 week late. It's just that if they want to qualify, they still need to have 5 wins. So they basically take a forfeit or a loss the first week that they weren't part of the league. Any questions or thoughts? Anybody in the chat want to give us some questions? Please do now. Go ahead, Jonah.
I was just saying, people can join at any point, right? But they just can't make cuts at all if they come in after week 2 because they can't get the 5 wins or 15 tournament points because we use AMG's Challenger document now as the kind of basis for our rules. So open rosters has really allowed that opportunity for people to drop in. I was hinting at actually, one of the criticisms that we get as a TO team, perhaps quite fairly, is that the leagues have lacked a clear schedule. It's been sometimes a bit haphazard or quickly arranged, particularly this season that's just gone because we weren't sure whether to even do one before Christmas, and we put it to a vote, and people did want another season before the year was out. So we've got clear dates here, and we will be going with whatever rules are in place, whatever AMG gives us, leading into those leagues, and models and characters that are released will be legal immediately as soon as they're released with the open rosters.
Yeah, exactly. So in the past, we used to try to dance around various conventions or possible reveals from AMG and all that kind of stuff, and it just led to more problems than it was worth. And especially because those problems are somewhat mitigated by having the Swiss leagues being open rosters anyway. Carl, looked like you wanted to say something. No. He didn't realize what he signed up for is what he was saying. I didn't realize it was this.
Oh, I'm good.
This is too much work. Oh my God, what have I done?
No. I was actually just sharing out the league schedule to some locals, trying to get some new players going.
Right
so
on.
It's exciting having a fixed schedule.
There's a TO. Oh, he's hustling. Shadow Marvel, you just popped on. Any thoughts?
No, I think it's great. I think having stability is important. I think one of the complaints that we've had, I mean, I guess I was not part, I'm new, so lodged towards you, now to me as the whole. Anyway, the complaints is that, sometimes things happen and then everything becomes this mad rush and it becomes like someone makes a decision or then everyone has to wait. And I think this openness, having the set rules, the open rosters, alleviates a significant amount of the logistical issues that would cause a scenario where we have to make snap decisions in order to make things work and then get people's, feathers get ruffled. I mean, I'm sure there's always going to be ruffled feathers, but, there'll be less ruffled and less feathers.
Unfortunately, we can't please all of the people all of the time, but we'll do our best.
Yes. course.
Cool.
Most of the people, most of the time. Settle for that.
We have lots of overwhelming support from the schedule in the chat. And also getting some nice PHP Chrono. Thank you for mentioning about the fact that you appreciate all the work that we do and understand the pain of the complaints that come our way. Fair enough. But we all know what we signed up for. And kudos to you for working at a nonprofit club as well. Coffee Time is asking, I saw a lack of streamers for Cut Games in Season 9. Are the old streamers coming back for Season 10? Or should we be pushing for new streamers? I don't know what that was, to be honest with you. Liam stepped in for the first time, which is great. Liam Watt, and also Simple Minds Gaming, or Simple Math Gaming. That's it. Did a few streams, but yeah, some of the older ones, the more established ones hadn't, and I can't say why. I think partly it might be taking a break from the game until the new Crisis showed up, but that's conjecture on my part. So we'll see.
I mean, you never have too many streamers. That's not something that like there's no like saturation point for MCP streamers. Like you want to stream TTS games, that it's only good for everyone.
Insidious and Mad was saying that was actually probably the toughest part of keeping up with the season. I assume he's meaning not having enough people streaming it. And so I can understand that. Cuddle from Ireland is suggesting it might have also been the time of the year. That's absolutely true. Being especially in the States with Thanksgiving and Christmas being a month apart from one another, when this league, a large part of this league was happening then. The elimination part, anyway. Good thoughts.
If anyone's interested, just ping us. We can give them the role on the Discord. There's a streamer role, just like the Accuser role or the Dark Illuminati role. So we can give that. Like Sam said, more streamers, more better, right?
Yeah, it's really important, actually. It was hugely important during the pandemic when nobody could get out. But I think it remains important now because that's how new players learn. And also the competitive people also get a kind of a insight into what's going on in the meta. And just generally makes the game more visible.
Yeah, I also think it's even if you don't even think that you're a phenomenal streamer, I say just give it a shot and try it out, because TTS streaming, when you have someone there and they're commentating, it's infinitely possibly the best way to watch a Marvel Crisis Protocol game, because you can see everything that's happened. You have someone talking, so even if you're not watching the screen with your eyes glued to it, someone's walking you through it. So it's always very enjoyable. New people, whether they're experienced or whether they're brand new to it, it's always enjoyable to watch their streams. So I say give it a try if you haven't.
That's a good point, Shadow. Oh, sorry, Jonah. Real quick, it's a good point because I was thinking about how I could stream live games, and I realized that the mod has that streamer view, which tells you so much that you don't get if you're streaming a live game. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Streaming live games is hard.
Yeah.
The guys who did it at Nations, which is the big team tournament in the UK, just had such a good setup. It was incredible. But the point I was going to make is if we've got existing streamers, if they are perhaps willing to host people as kind of guest commentators with them to help kind of show them the ropes and let people who might be interested in streaming kind of dip their toe in the water before they do it themselves, that would be really good. I know I've been on a couple of streams as a guest. I've been on yours, Norbert, of course, and a couple of others. I haven't taken the plunge myself. Maybe I should. I don't know if my PC would handle it.
Yeah.
Streams are better than no streams. Streams with a commentator are better than streams without, and streams with like color commentary and play-by-play are pretty much the best.
Yeah.
Watch Norbert and Huggy.
Yeah.
Not to get any bigger because I'm on his channel, but I love the Norbert and Huggy show.
Yeah, thanks. It's a big thrill for us to do it. Okay, that brings us close to the top of the hour. Let me get rid of this slide now so I can see everybody. Oop, that's me, everybody. How do I do this? Oh, dear. I want to see everybody. How do I do that? Oh, my goodness. Sometimes Discord misses me about. Oh, here we are. There we go. I just wanted to thank this panel for coming on here and giving us some more of your time. I'm really excited to have Carl and Matt now with us as well. It's always great to have fresh insights, fresh energy, fresh ideas on the team. So thank you very much for that. And most importantly, we want to thank everybody for doing the survey and just supporting the league, however you do that. We do this as a community service, basically, to make sure that everybody out there who wants to play MCP can, if they can't get out to their live events or they just want to meet new people. That's why we're doing this, and for no other reason whatsoever. So we're grateful for you for being there and helping us see this happen. All right, with that, then, let me thank everybody who was watching tonight. And we'll be putting up this video along with links to the PowerPoint survey on various Discords as well as in the show notes. So you'll be able to see it there. So with that, I want to thank you all for watching and hope to see you in Season 10.
Woo.